The story begins in a grand fantasy-like palace setting. Here, our female lead Seo Mireille is getting ready to go on a date with her digital boyfriend. Then the story jumps back 2 weeks. After finishing an exhausting day of work, Mireille returns home and tells her smart home system to turn on the lights. She lives alone, and her life runs entirely on a schedule. Every hour of her day is planned. She starts talking to herself while calculating her day out loud. She says there are 24 hours in a day, 6 hours go to sleep, 10 hours to work, 1 hour to eat, 1.5 hours to shower and skincare, and by the end of the day, she is left with only 3 hours and 30 minutes for herself, which she spends her own way, watching Netflix. She smiles and says, "Days like today are the best. No meetings, no plans, and no demands on my time." These small moments of rest are precious to her because the very next day she has to return to the same busy corporate world. The next day, as she was on her way to work, she was daydreaming about her last summer vacation in the Philippines. Then suddenly she heard a child laughing. When she opened her eyes, she saw a kid covered in chocolate smiling at her, and later she saw the kid had smeared chocolate on her clothes. In the elevator, she was wiping her clothes when she saw Park Kyung-nam, her work rival, and she works at a web content company that manages projects for various writers. After entering the office, some girls come out from inside the office and start clapping and congratulating her. Mireille doesn't understand anything. She asks them what's going on. But those girls ignore her and gather around Kyung-nam, praising him. He is considered the company's star producer and has recently landed a webtoon adaptation deal. Seeing this, Mireille feels jealous. She angrily goes towards her chair. A girl tells her there's a team dinner tonight. Mr. Park is taking everyone out to celebrate the deal. Mireille makes an excuse and says, "I won't be able to come. Actually, I have to go somewhere else today." Just then, that girl asks, "Are you really not coming? You know Director Huang is angry with you because you never come to any office dinner." She replies, "I'm not the only one like this. Kyung-nam never goes either." One of their colleague Yoon-ju has a crush on Kyung-nam and praises him. Hearing this, Mireille just rolls her eyes at all of it and advises her not to pursue him as office dating can get messy. Just then, Kyung-nam messages her. It said, sending the feedback for last week's Team 2's proposal, and wrote a long list of problems about the story to her. After reading this, she glares at him angrily. Just then, a man comes into the office shouting. He says, "Stop, Producer Cho, I wasn't done lecturing you." Cho goes to his desk, throws his things down hard, and says, "I'm quitting." Hearing this, everyone is stunned. Office people try to stop him, but Cho doesn't stop. Mireille notices that Kyung-nam is unaffected by all this drama. Mireille's phone rings just then. She got a message from Ji-yeon. She writes, "I really need to see you after work. It's urgent." In the next scene, Ji-yeon is shown taking selfies. Then Mireille also reaches there. Seeing her, she jumps with joy. They both go to the mall, where Ji-yeon starts looking at clothes. Mireille says, "You called me all this way just for shopping?" Ji-yeon says, "I wouldn't call you here just for shopping. I have to talk to you about something important." She says, "Really? What is it?" Ji-yeon says, "What will you wear to the wedding?" Mireille makes a face. Ji-yeon says, "You're not thinking of sending an envelope and making an excuse, are you?" Mireille says, "I'm not making an excuse. I'm genuinely very busy." Ji-yeon says, "This is the chance to wear good clothes and show off." Mireille says, "What's wrong with my clothes?" She says, "It's fit for office, not to show off. They should think that you're happily single, in case your ex is there." She says, "Ages have passed since our breakup. Why would he care now?" Ji-yeon picks out a dress for her and tells her to try it on. Next, they both are sitting in a restaurant eating. Ji-yeon says, "Don't even think about returning the dress." Then she asks, "Don't you feel lonely?" Mireille says, "No. Will my salary increase if I get a boyfriend? No, right? It's going to be more trouble if I am dating." Ji-yeon says, "You could also find a boyfriend who is exactly your type." Mireille finds this interesting. She starts listening carefully. Ji-yeon says, "Someone exactly like you." Mireille recalls that there's only one such person, Kyung-nam. She says loudly, "No, it's gross. I want someone opposite of me." Hearing this, Ji-yeon laughs out loud. In the next scene, Mireille reaches home. She is so drunk she can't even walk. She lies down on the floor. Then, looking at the shopping bag, she starts crying and says, "Why did I buy such an expensive dress?" She covers herself with the dress and falls asleep on the floor. The next day, there's discussion about Cho leaving the office. A lady asks who will take his place, and a man says either Kyung-nam or Mirai will be chosen. That girl says, "Kyung-nam, I can understand, but why would they choose Mirai? She has absolutely no experience with the genre." Just then, she arrives at the office. They both start looking at her. Mirai asks, "What happened?" Kyung-nam also arrives at the office. Just then, he hears Mirai shouting. They say, "Kyung-nam is doing better than you, so there's a chance the director will choose him." A girl says, "That's not certain. The director's thinking is a bit twisted." Mirai says, "Not again." Then she goes to her desk. She imagines herself standing in a snowy place, calling Ms. Yun to give her the work file, but no one opens the door. She keeps on shouting for the file, if not, she will get fired. She comes out of the dream and Ms. Yun sends her the new episode and Mirai is relived seeing this. Later, Mirai just arrived home when Ms. Yun calls her and starts crying and complained to her. This was all Mirai's imagination, and when she comes to her senses, she says, "No, this won't happen." Then she takes some cookies and heads towards the director's office. She knocks on the door and opens the door. She says, "Sir, I brought macarons for you." Just then, she falls silent because Kyung-nam was sitting in front of her. He had also brought a treat for the director. The director says, "Sit down. I need to talk to you about something important." He says, "Convince me which one of you two should get Ms. Yun." Mirai says, "Sir, I will go first." The director shouts loudly, "Shut up, neither of you comes to the team dinner." "Fine, I'll let go of my displeasure and choose based on your capability alone." "Come on, Mirai, start speaking." She says, "Sir, there's only one person who can handle this responsibility well, and that is Kyung-nam." He replies, "Mirai knows how to get work done from people. She will handle Ms. Yun well." She says, "No, sir, Kyung-nam just got a big deal. This post should definitely go to him. Besides, according to him, my project has no merits, only flaws." An argument starts between them. The director says, "I understand. Neither of you wants to do this work. You think more about comfort than work." The director then says, "Mirai, you will do this work." Hearing this, she is shocked. She says, "Sir, this work is beyond my ability." The director says, "The decision is made and you don't have that many authors under you." Kyung-nam says, "Okay, sir, I'm leaving. I have a meeting." She also returns with a sad face. She sees Kyung-nam comfortably sitting on the massage chair. Colleagues gather around her and ask what happened. Mirai says, "Don't know who complained. He came prepared before me with a whole box of macarons." Then, we see a 3-year flashback. After working in the office all day, Mirai reaches home. The writer, Ms. Yun, calls her and nags her. Her boyfriend, Si-jun, comes and says, "Tomorrow is my birthday. You will be coming to our date, right?" She assures him she will be there. The next day, she is talking to the writer while making cookies. Hearing her nagging, she falls asleep at the table. On the other hand, Se-jun keeps waiting at the hotel. He calls her repeatedly. But Mirai was fast asleep. When she opens her eyes, she has missed calls from Se-jun. Her cookies were also burnt. She quickly gets ready and runs towards the hotel. Just then, she gets a message from Se-jun. The story shifts back to the present. An employee says, "I remember, because of the tension at that time, your hair started falling out." Then they start checking her hair for the bald spot. While going home at night, the metro is very crowded. A woman loses her balance and grabs Mirai's hair while falling. She screams loudly, after which the woman apologizes to her. Mirai, fed up with this life, starts crying. Next, the wedding event is shown. Mirai enters and Ji-yeon says, "I told you not to return the dress." She replies, "I didn't return it. I didn't feel like wearing that dress. It's lying at home." Their conversation is going on when two girls come in between and say, "Mirai, you came." After the wedding ceremony ended, the girls were talking about going for drinks when Mirai heard the name of her ex's girlfriend. Everyone runs towards her. She saw the sparkling engagement ring in her hand and thought how he had stole the spotlight without even coming here. Seeing this, Mirai feels very bad. Then she leaves the party. At home, she remembered her past with her ex Se-jun. Once they were walking in the park when he mentioned him getting married and having a family. Mirai gets angry as he did not mention her in his plans. At night, Mirai goes for a walk to freshen her mood. Just then, she gets a message on her phone and she gets irritated because it was from the writer Yun. She goes home, reads her webtoon, and says, "Now this woman writes even worse." She checks social media. People were cursing the writer. Her image in the media was also negative. The next day, when Kyung-nam comes to the office, he sees that Mirai is using the massage chair. Mirai thinks to herself, "Selfish jerk." Just then, Kyung-nam asks, "How much more time will you take?" She replies, "Just 5 more minutes." Kyung-nam sits in front of her and starts looking at his watch. He was even counting the seconds. Fed up, Mirai gets up from there. As soon as Kyung-nam sits on the seat, something pricks him. He sees that it's a toy that Mirai had placed for revenge. A girl comes and tells Mirai to take all the files of writer Yun. She asks who she should take them from, so the girl says Kyung-nam. With a heavy heart, she has to go to him. Kyung-nam says, "Where did this toy come from?" She says, "I don't know." Then she asks Kyung-nam about the files, and he also gives her time for 5 minutes later. They meet in the conference room, where Kyung-nam explains everything to her. Then he sends her coupon for sauna. She says, "Did the director send me this because I am going to be in stress?" He says, "Yes." Next, during lunchtime, Dongmin says, "I will treat you to grill eel today." They are all waiting in a group for the lift. Just then, the lift door opens and everyone is stunned because writer Yoon is in front. She had also brought lunch with her. She says, "Mirai, we need to talk a lot. I've also brought lunch for us." Then she forcefully grabs her and takes her along. During lunch, that woman nags her with conversation. Then they start working. Mirai starts pointing out mistakes in the story. Yun says, "I won't say you're stupid, but you're just not getting my style." She says, "Fine. Then you talk to the director to find you someone suitable." Yun says, "It's not like that. Keep working with me. You'll also learn." And starts laughing. After a while, a guy enters the room. He introduces himself as Min Jun Young. He has come from DU Company, which makes dating apps. Mirai asks, "What is your platform called?" And he replies, "Boyfriend on Demand." Hearing this, Mirai snickers. Yun says, "This girl reacts to romantic things just like this." After the meeting, Min Jun Young asks to speak with Mirai alone. He says, "I want you to use our platform for a month and then give your opinion." Mirai asks, "What do I need to do for that?" He says, "It's a dating platform, so you'll have to give your opinion based on dates. You'll have to tell about all the guys, which one was good and which was bad." She asks, "This will be a fake world, right? Where all the guys will also be fake?" Jun Young replies, "Yes, but everything will feel real to you." As Yun said, "You don't like romantic things. Your review matters to us." He says, "You will also get money for this." Hearing that she will get paid, Mirai agrees. At her home, a box is delivered by DU. She unboxes it and learns to operate it by looking at the manual. Inside, there is a ring and a speaker that connects to her mobile. As instructed by the machine, she wears the ring on her head, and as soon as she turns it on, strange things start happening in her head. She faints and falls onto the sofa. Mirai has now reached another world. There, she was wearing a white dress. Then she is surprised to see the sight in front. She is standing on the same beach where she wanted to go on weekends. Mirai is very happy. When she touches the water, it also feels completely real. She notices a guy in the sea who was surfing. Suddenly, a huge wave of water comes, and she gets submerged in it. She was able to breathe underwater too. Fish are swimming all around her. Then Mirai sees that the guy is drowning. She swims towards him, takes him out of the water, and brings him to the shore. When she looks at him carefully, she remembers he looks exactly like the webtoon of Ms. Yun, the Man to Know. Just then, a voice comes from the sky. "Congratulations, you are meeting your first date." And that guy regains consciousness. Mirai asks, "Are you all right?" And that guy holds her hand. Episode 2. At the beginning of Episode 2, Mirai arrives in another world. There are large capsules all around her, with pictures of humans visible inside. Then, Mirai's eyes fall on a capsule that has a woman's picture on it, with "Greetings, dear subscriber" written on it. As soon as she goes closer, suddenly that woman extends her hand out of the capsule and places it on Mirai's shoulder. She screams in fear. That woman says, "So, shall we begin?" Mirai asks, "Who are you? Are you a real human?" She replies, "I am your date manager. You can call me Unni." Then Mirai, wandering around, asks, "What place is this? And what are these capsules?" The manager replies, "Just a minute." Then she types something on the table, and a box comes out. There's a ring in that box. The manager hands that ring to Mirai and says, "Those who come here are given a ring like this. As long as you wear it, you'll stay in this world, and once you take it off, you'll log out." She says, "Okay, so this is a virtual reality, but am I okay in the real world?" The manager replies, "I am not sure." In the real world, she is lying on the sofa. Then Mirai puts on the ring. The manager says, "Come on, now you have to go." She asks, "Where do I have to go?" The manager snaps her fingers, and everything starts spinning. Then she brings a capsule closer and tells Mirai to go inside it. She moves forward nervously. Just then, the manager blows from behind, and Mirai enters that capsule. She arrives back at the same beach location. She had just saved the guy, as the guy is lying unconscious in front of her. Mirai tries to wake him up. Mirai recognizes him as the webtoon character Choi Si-woo. Just then, the guy holds her hand and she gets very nervous. Then Mirai remembers the manager's words. She quickly removes the ring from her finger and immediately wakes up in real life. As soon as she regains consciousness, she checks herself to see if everything is all right. Then she starts researching about the boyfriend on demand app. She says to herself, "Mr. Min, what an amazing thing you've created." The next day, even while working in the office, she was thinking about that app. Just then, that webtoon guy appears behind her. Seeing him, Mirai is stunned. Then she realizes it's just a cutout. A colleague says, "Mr. Cho wanted you to have it." Mirai says, "Okay, leave it here." Then she starts staring at the poster. Meanwhile, the director calls Kyung-nam to the office and says, "We are going to release another webtoon on the same date as Ms. Yoon's webtoon." Kyung-nam says, "Won't it make the two writers compete?" Kyung-nam then asks if Mirai knows about this. The director says, "She doesn't know, and if Ms. Yoon knows, then it will be bad for us." Meanwhile, Mirai, looking at the poster, says, "It feels like he's looking right at me. It's just a cutout. It's not real." Kyung-nam sees her staring at the poster. While going home at night, Mirai is standing in the metro station. Just then, she sees the same poster there too. She is surprised and asks, "Was this poster always here?" While she stood in the metro, she peeks into the mobile of a girl sitting nearby, and she was also reading the same webtoon. Seeing this, Mirai is surprised. Posters are also plastered everywhere on the metro walls. The girls standing near her are saying, "How handsome he is." Even on those girls' bags, his picture is printed. Mirai says, "Wherever I look, I see Choi Si-woo." As soon as she reaches home, she first takes the ring and lies down on the sofa and then turns it on. But this time, she is in some hotel instead of the beach. Mirai sees that her clothes are of hotel staff. She thinks to herself, "This means I am the webtoon's female lead." She starts smiling. There's a file in Mirai's hand. She opens it and looks. It said, "Approval request, General Manager." She goes inside, and the name tag of the male leads is on the desk. Choi Si-woo comes and stands behind Mirai. Suddenly, seeing him, she is startled. He says, "A girl who works here is sitting at my desk. Am I imagining it?" Mirai tries to say something, but he interrupts, saying, "Get out, right now." Mirai doesn't understand anything, leaving from there. Suddenly, he tells Mirai to stop. She asks, "Why did you stop me?" He gets close to her, asks, "Have we met before?" Mirai thinks to herself, he remembered. She turns around and gives him a smile. Now that guy was coming closer to her. The guy gets a headache. Then the webtoon story continues. He says, "You're that girl from the beach." Mirai nods yes and says, "I am that girl." He asks, "But how are you here?" She replies, "I work here." He says, "Finally, I found you. After you saved me that day, there wasn't a single day when I didn't think about you." He continues, "I couldn't forget you, not even for a moment." Hearing his words, Miri starts making strange faces in real life and says, "I had totally forgotten how cringe he was." She says, "If you keep saying such things." Just then, that guy puts his finger on her lips and says, "Let's take our time." Mirai asks, "What do you mean?" He says, "To identify the beautiful face I long to see." Hearing all these lines, Mirai feels like strangling him. She removes the ring and, as soon as she wakes up in the real world, holds her head. She says, "There's only so much cringe a girl can take." The next day, when she goes to the office and sees his cutout, she starts remembering those lines again. Making a face, she turns the cutout's face towards the wall. Her colleague comes and says, "Poor Choi Si-woo will have a hard time now." Mirai asks, "Why is that?" The colleague says, "Haven't you seen Hwani's post?" In the next scene, she is going towards the director's office. The director hides his face on seeing her. She says, "Hwani is also going to publish on Friday. Why did you do this? You should have told me first." The director says, "She needs a good competition." Just then, thinking of something, Mirai asks, "This idea Kyung-nam didn't give it to you, did he?" The director says, "Absolutely not." As soon as she comes out of the office, she sees Kyung-nam. He was talking to Hwani and Mirai, hiding, overhears all their conversation. Then she takes out her mobile and calls Ms. Yun. But she is busy singing in the bar. She doesn't even hear the phone's sound. Mirai, searching for her, reaches that place and shouts, "Stop singing!" But Yoon could not hear her. Mirai pushes her away and stops the song. Then she holds her hand and forcibly starts taking her along. Miss Yoon, freeing her hand, says, "Have you gone mad?" Mirai says, "Do you even know what happened?" She replies, "I know." Mirai says, "Then why are you shouting your throat out here?" The writer says, "It's your matter, not mine." Mirai says, "You are giving up so quickly." She says, "What difference does it make to you?" Mirai replies, "If the ratings fall while you're working with me, what will Kyung-nam think? My respect will be ruined. We cannot let them win." The Ms. Yoon says, "Okay, fine." Night has fallen, and by now they both are still in the office. Mirai says, "Think of a good, flashy idea." After a while, Yoon starts snoring. Mirai tries to wake her. She says, "We should try something new." The writer says, "You tell me what new to try." She also holds her head and says, "My brain isn't working either." Yoon says, "Let's just kill the main hero. As soon as people find out, everyone will be stunned." Mirai says, "This is not the time to joke." Yoon says, "Do you know why this one ran the most among all my stories?" Mirai guesses, "Because your skill shows in it." Yoon asks, "And what is my skill?" She replies, "Creating handsome men." Yoon says, "That's the root of the trouble. I didn't want to continue this story." Mirai thinks to herself, "Now I understand why Mr. Cho left the company." She says, "I don't want to do this anymore. Please, help me somehow." Next, Mirai is shown walking on the road, and she notices two little girls who were talking about their crush. One girl says, "He isn't clearly saying yes or no." The other girl says, "Then you ask him yourself if he likes you or not." Hearing those kids' conversation, Mirai gets an idea. She starts running and quickly reaches home, puts the ring on her head, and starts it. She enters the hotel room. Choi Si-woo is standing in front. Mirai asks, "What happened? Why did you call me to your room?" He replies, "As soon as I go out, everyone will gather. That's why I called you here." Hearing this, Mirai thinks to herself, "I'll tolerate it. I have to get my work done from him." Then she looks at him and thinks, he is handsome. He says, "You were the manager here, right? Today is your last day. No need to come from tomorrow." Mirai, shocked, says, "Are you firing me?" He replies, "Yes, consider it that. I don't date people who work in the company. That's why I have to fire you." Mirai says, "Girls must be dying to date you, but I'm not like that." He says, "Then what are you like?" Mirai says, "You'll have to work hard. You'll have to win me over." Hearing this, he starts laughing. Then he stands up, comes close to her, and says, "You really are very different from others." Mirai says, "Yes, make me crazy for you, but please, quickly, you don't have much time." He says, "Now I won't fire you. I'll keep an eye on you." Then he calls someone and says, "Transfer this girl to the secretary's office." Then he takes off his coat. Then he starts unbuttoning his tie and shirt. Mirai was still standing there. He says, "You haven't left? My talk is over." Just then, a large bubble appears in the air and she gets transported to another place. Her clothes have also changed. Just then, a car stops in front of her. The driver opens the door for her, and Mirai sits inside. She sees that a girl is already sitting in the car. Then that girl says, "I am the chief secretary of Choi Si-woo and handle all his work. My name is Choi Min-ju. You must know that getting a secretary job here isn't easy. You have to work very hard. You'll have to give a job interview to prove yourself." Mirai says, "Interview?" Just then, Min-ju starts asking questions. She says, "What do you like to eat the most?" Mirai replies, "I like meat very much." She notes down her answer. Then she asks the next question. She says, "After you get a boyfriend, what kind of date would you like to go on?" Mirai asks, "What kind of interview is this?" Then she realizes that Choi Si-woo must have written these questions himself. Just then, Minju gets a call from him, and he says a couple more questions to her. After the call ends, they go to a building. Minju takes her to the boss's cabin. Then, giving a warning, she tells her never to knock on the door twice. The boss doesn't like that. Knock very gently. She does exactly that. The door opens, and Mirai is stunned. His entire office was filled with red flowers. She asks, "What is all this?" He replies, "Flowers are best to impress women." Smiling, she picks up a rose, goes to him, and says, "Now what are you going to do next? You must have thought of something, right?" He says, "You are very shameless." Mirai, making a face, says, "Won't you take me on a date?" He replies, "I'm going somewhere right now. Come with me." Hearing this, she gets happy. They go to eat. But Mirai doesn't enjoy it here. She says, "Is this all you'll do for me?" Just then, he gestures to the chef, and they fill the table with tasty food. Mirai is tasting everything there. Then they both go to the mall. Mirai asks, "Why have we come here?" He says, "Now that you're going on a date with me, you should do a little shopping, right?" After seeing the collection, she tries on the dresses. Then at a party, he gifts her a diamond necklace. Mirai is very happy. Then he takes her to a mansion, where both dress up as a couple. Mirai thinks to herself, "I have realized. This is not cliched romance." Just then, suddenly, she takes off her ring. In the next scene, she is knocking on Ms. Yun's door. She says, "Why are you bothering me?" Mirai excitedly says, "I found it." Then she enters her house and says, "I know what to do. We'll have to start from the very beginning. You said that Choi Si-woo is very handsome and he can fulfill every wish of a girl." The writer says, "You yourself said that all this is cliched." Mirai replies, "I was wrong. Choi Si-woo isn't cliched, he's a classic guy. That's why girls are so crazy about him." She says, "I have an idea. This time, we'll show the romance of the rich. Everyone will enjoy reading it. We'll start the story from the mall." Then, Mirai keeps telling her the story from the dating app, and the writer creates the story accordingly. They work day and night to complete that project. Later that evening, only 2 people are in the office. Kyung-nam sees that Mirai is still busy working. He goes to get coffee, and Mirai also follows him. Then they both start waiting for the lift. Kyung-nam says, "Looks like we'll both be working late nights often now." She says, "Yes, maybe." Kyung-nam turns around and says, "Whatever happened, I didn't have anything to do with it." She asks, "Why are you saying this?" Kyung-nam replies, "It seems you're angry with me." She says, "I don't care." Then she enters the lift. Kyung-nam says, "It's your habit to not show that you care, but still it's clearly visible on your face." She thinks to herself, "If it's visible, then why are you asking?" Kyung-nam has 2 coffees in his hand. She says, "Looks like you'll be very late today." He says, "I took this coffee to drink on the way home." Mirai says, "After the ice melts, the coffee's taste will become bad." He replies, "I'll leave before the ice melts." Just then, the lift opens. Mirai runs ahead of him and quickly reaches her desk. After a while, Kyung-nam finishes his work and leaves the office. But Mirai's work was still pending. She stares at and as soon as the webtoon is uploaded, she finishes her work and reaches home. Mirai was just looking at the clock and then, gathering courage, she opens her mobile. She finds out that the webtoon is trending at number 1. She screams with joy. The next day, she makes a grand entry into the office. Everyone claps to welcome her. Then she gives a sideways look to Kyung-nam. She pretends to be innocent to receive praise and says, "What happened, guys? Did I do something special?" Next, she is shown sitting at home reading everyone's comments. Everyone is writing positive things. Then she puts on the ring again for the next story idea. Next, Choi Si-woo is shown waiting while standing near his private plane. Just then, a sports car stops there, and Mirai gets out of it. She says, "What was the need for a private plane for dinner?" He replies, "Disappointed, why were you so late?" She says, "I came after finishing my work." Choi Si-woo says, "You're making the boss himself wait." Then she asks, "Where are we going for dinner?" He says, "You'll see when we get there." Saying this, he walks towards the plane holding her hand and takes her along. Now they are on a boat in the middle of the sea. They have come to eat in the middle of the ocean. Choi Si-woo says, "Let's get engaged." Hearing this, she spills the drink in her mouth and says, shocked, "Engaged? Have you gone crazy?" He says, "You're refusing to marry a handsome rich guy?" Mirai says, "I had already said our relationship would only be dating." He says, shocked, "What?" Mirai says, "I had told you not to fall in love with me." The next day, they meet on the beach. Mirai says, "What a beautiful view." He says, "Let's make a deal. So there won't be an engagement, but you can still be my girlfriend." Hearing this, she stays silent. He says, "I'm asking something for the first time." Mirai smiles, and he starts fixing her hair. Then he comes close to her and kisses her. Mirai could feel this in real life too. Then he says, "Is everything okay?" She shakes her head, yes. Just then, Choi Si-woo takes a gift out of his pocket. There is a ring in the box. Then he gets down on one knee and says, "I am giving this ring to my girlfriend. It's not an engagement ring." She is surprised. Choi Si-woo kisses her hand, and just as he is about to put the ring on her, he freezes right there. Mirai looks around, and everything around them has also frozen. A notification appears on Choi Si-woo's head. Your 50 hours of dating are complete, and then an error starts blinking. Just then, she wakes up in real life. She takes out the manual guide from the box. It was clearly written that a character can only be dated for 50 hours. Seeing this, she starts crying loudly. The next day, an office meeting is going on, and Mirai is lost in her own thoughts. She can't forget Choi Si-woo. Next, she is shown meeting Mr. Min in a restaurant. He asks, "How was your experience?" Mirai says, "What do you want to know?" Mr. Min says, "How did you feel?" And she tells him that she felt good, and she had fun. He says, "Then why did you give the review before the time was up?" She says, "This much time is enough to understand the app. And besides, Choi Si-woo has said in bar, I don't want to try any other character." Jun says, "There are still 899 guys left. So how can you say that Choi Si-woo is the best? If you don't try the other guys, you might regret it later." Hearing this, she gets an idea. She comes home thinking while watching a romantic movie. She looks at the ring and says, "I got a 1-month free trial, so what's the harm in using it? One shouldn't reject free stuff." Then she wears the ring again. The manager is standing in front of Mirai. She snaps her fingers, and another bubble appears in front of her. The manager asks, "What are you thinking?" She replies, "I need a little time." Just then, the manager grabs her shoulders and pushes her into the bubble. Mirai is standing on a road where the leaves on the trees are pink. Her clothes also change. A leaf falls on her shoulder, and just then, a guy picks it up. This is Mirai's new boyfriend. She thinks to herself that Boyfriend on Demand exceeded her expectation. Episode 3. At the beginning of Episode 3, Mirai meets her new date. Both are staring at each other. Just then, a girl comes and says, "Hey, what are you doing here?" That guy, apologizing to Mirai, says, "Sorry, I thought you were her." Then they both start to leave. Mirai says, "Isn't this him?" She becomes disappointed. Just then, a girl comes shouting her name. The system tells that her name is Suji, and they are classmates. Suji says, "The campus is big. I had lost my way. Come on, let's go now." Mirai asks, "Where to?" She says, "The fair, with the school association." Saying this, she holds her hand and takes her along. Mirai sees a welcome board for freshers in front. She is surprised to see herself in the mirror. Just then, a guy from behind calls them. She turns around to see two guys standing behind them. One of them starts dancing, then he winks at Mirai. In real life, she says, "Please don't be him." They both ignore him and start to leave. Next, Mirai sees there is a long line at one stall. Mirai asks, "Why is such a long line here?" And Suji tells her that those people are standing in line to get tickets for the Kumdo club match. "But I heard that all the tickets are already sold out." Mirai says, "I didn't know Kumdo was so famous." Then she checks her pocket and finds she already has 2 tickets. Surprised, Suji snatches the tickets from her hand and says, "Where did you get these from?" Mirai says, "So should we go there?" Suji replies, "Of course." Then she holds her hand and drags her along. Next, they both sitting in the stadium. Just then, a guy in black clothes enters, and all the girls start screaming. Then a fight starts between the one in black and the one in white. Within a few minutes of the game starting, the guy in white falls down defeated, and Seo Yunho is declared the winner. The guy starts taking off his mask. As soon as he removes his mask, Mirai is also surprised to see him, as he was the same guy she first met here. That guy also looks at Mirai. Just then, everyone disappears, and the system notification comes. "Congratulations, you have met your second date." Mirai happily says to herself, "I knew it was you." Next, Mirai is shown filling out a form. A girl asks, "You guys are joining the club because of Yunho, right?" Suji says, "No way." That girl says, "We also joined the club for the same reason." Mirai asks, "Is Yunho really that famous?" The girl replies, "All the girls in college want him to never pass out. Thankfully, the architecture course is long." Suji asks, surprised, "He's studying architecture, meaning he's good-looking and also good at studies?" Mirai thinks, "The one all girls die for will be with me." Then she starts smiling. Suji asks, "Why are you laughing?" She replies, "You wouldn't understand." Then she starts filling the form. Just then bubbles appear, and she reaches a room. There were other girls sitting there too. A girl in black clothes says hello to everyone. Mirai remembers this is the same girl who took Yunho away with her. Her name was Yerin. Just then, Mirai's eyes fall on Yunho. A bird flies in from outside. It has a pink leaf in its beak. In the background, Yerin says, "So who will come forward to begin?" Mirai extends her hand to catch that leaf. Yerin says, "You, come forward." Mirai wasn't paying attention to her words. After looking around, she refuses. Suji pushes her, and her body automatically moves forward. Yerin, handing her the sword, asks her name. After that, Yerin says, "I need someone to teach her." Everyone turns their faces towards Yunho. She says, "It's you then." After which Yunho comes into the arena. They both say hello to each other. He asks, "Have you ever held a sword before?" She replies, "No." After which Yunho teaches her how to hold the sword. Then he moves her foot forward to teach her how to stand and then how to strike. He says, "Shall we begin?" Yunho raises his sword and stands at a distance and says, "Strike!" Mirai raises the sword and, in the blink of an eye, reaches near his head. Seeing this, not only Yunho but Mirai is also shocked. Everyone claps for her. Yerin asks, "Is this your first time?" She replies, "Yes, it's my first time." She thinks to herself, "How did I do this?" Yunho says, "Come on, let's try again." She says, "Okay." This time, a fight begins between them. Yunho attacks her with full force, but Mirai was blocking them all. Seeing this, Yunho is also stunned. Just then, Mirai reaches his throat again. Everyone is shocked. That girl praises Mirai. Then he goes near her and says, "I'm glad you joined us." They both smile, after which he starts teaching others. Mirai and Suji are standing far away, watching him. After a while, Mirai sees that Yunho is leaving, and Mirai runs after him and says, "Going for lunch?" He says, "In a while." "Why?" Mirai says, "Will you have lunch with me?" He asks, "With everyone?" She replies, "No." He says, "You mean just you and me?" Mirai says yes. He says, "I don't know you that well yet." Saying this, he starts to leave from there. Mirai is shocked by his words. Just then, that girl comes in between. She asks Yunho to lunch, and they both leave from there. Later, she tells the manager, "But he was supposed to be my boyfriend." The manager says, "He is not your boyfriend yet." Mirai replies, "He will end up with me in the end, right?" She says, "Looks like you got some misunderstanding. You didn't think that these 900 guys would be crazy after you from the start, did you?" And she starts laughing at Mirai. Mirai says, "Does this mean Yunho might not even love me?" The manager replies, "Only time will tell." Mirai says disappointedly, "If I have to work as hard here as in real life, then what's the point?" The manager says, "Okay, shall I show you another guy?" Mirai says, "No, I like Yunho." The next day, when Kyungnam goes to the office, Mirai is sitting on the massage chair. He turns off the room lights so she can rest. Just then, Dongmin comes and turns the lights on and starts making coffee. He tells Kyungnam, "She worked all night again." He asks again, "The idea to shift the comic release to Friday was yours?" Kyungnam says, "No." Dongmin says, "But Mirai thinks so." Kyungnam says, "Of course she will, she doesn't like me." Just then, Mirai's phone rings and her sleep breaks. She then goes to the director's office. He says, "I just got a call from Yoon." Mirai asks, "But why?" The director replies, "What could be the reason for calling me?" She asks, "Does she want to quit?" The director says, shocked, "Did she say that?" Mirai asks, "Then why did she call?" He says, "She has asked for a 2-week leave." Hearing this, Mirai breathes a sigh of relief. She calls Jiyeon home for a party. She hides the ring so Jiyeon doesn't find out. Later, Mirai asks her, "If you could go back to being 20 years old, what would you do?" She says, "Why do you ask? What would you do?" Mirai replies, "I would change my whole life." Mirai tells her, "If I fell in love with someone, I'd go straight and propose to them. I wouldn't be shy." Hearing her words, she starts laughing loudly and says, "When you were 20, you were exactly like this. You made Sejun your boyfriend, even though he always liked another girl." Hearing her words, Mirai starts smiling and says, "Right, but what happened to me now?" She says, "You changed after being with him." Mirai remembers those days and says, "In the beginning, we both were so happy." After washing the dishes, she thinks, "Winning Yunho over will be difficult, but I won't give up." Next, Yunho is studying in class, and Mirai is staring at him. After the lecture ends, she goes to him. She asks, "Can I sit here?" He gives permission. As soon as she sits, Yunho gets up and says, "Let me pass." Mirai says, "Wait a minute." Then she takes off her jacket, flipping her hair, and gives him way. But Yunho leaves without even noticing her. In the next class, they both are sitting together. Mirai slides closer to him and says in a cute voice, "What page are we in?" He opens her book. Then she deliberately drops her pen on his book, and while picking it up, apologizes. She turns her head and brushes him with her hair. Now he gets angry. He says, "Did you have too much coffee?" Mirai replies, "No." He says, "I am trying to study." After the break, Yunho is leaving, and Mirai comes running from behind. She asks, "Are you going for training?" He says, "I am going later." Mirai says, "I'm also going there." Hearing her, he changes his path. But Mirai doesn't give up chasing him. She goes into the training room. Yunho comes to her and says, "Want to practice?" They both get ready, but Mirai doesn't know how to tie the dress. Seeing this, Yunho pulls her close and ties the dress. In real life, Mirai is shy seeing him so close. He says, "Unlike last time, don't hold off. Use your full strength." Next, it is shown that after the fight, Mirai is perfectly fine, and Yunho's condition has worsened. Just then, Yeren enters there. She asks, "Were you both having a practice match?" She says, "Looks like Yunho lost again." They both remain silent. Yunho says, "I'm going for a shower," and leaves from there. Next, a student party is going on at a restaurant. Mirai makes drinks there like a bartender. Seeing this, Suji says, "How did you learn this?" She says, "I learned from internet." Just then, Yunho enters. He goes and sits near Yeren, and seeing this, Mirai feels jealous. Yeren tells Mirai, "You're great in arts and amazing in sports." Mirai says, "It's nothing like that." Just then, Yoonho says, "Don't be so humble, you seem fake." Hearing this, she asks him, "What did I do to you?" Everyone is stunned. He replies, "You didn't do anything. I was not insulting you." Mirai says, "Okay." After this, she stands up from her seat, goes to Yoonho, and fills his glass with a drink. Mirai says in front of everyone, "I want us to be friends." Yoonho whispers in her ear, "We haven't known each other for very long." Mirai says, "What?" He says, "How can we be friends?" After the party ends, everyone has gone home. Yoonho also starts walking, and Mirai starts following him. After walking a bit, he turns around and says, "Where are you going?" She replies, "To the dorm." He walks a bit and then turns and says, "If you're going to the dorm, walk with me." Mirai asks, "Do you like Yeren?" He says, "What?" Mirai then asks him many questions. He replies, "Why do you want to know?" Mirai says, "You said that I don't know you." Just then, it starts raining. Mirai takes off her jacket and covers both their heads. Then she says, "Let's run," and they both start running. Yoonho slips, causing him to get completely wet. They both start laughing loudly, then they come under a shelter. Mirai says, "You're completely soaked." He replies, "I have dry clothes in my bag." Just then, a notification sound comes, and Mirai's eyes fall on the board, indicating the laundry room. Yoonho says, "Well, I'll go then." Just then, Mirai stops him, and pointing towards the room, Yoonho has now changed his clothes. He says, "You should also change your clothes." But Mirai refuses. She says, "I want to stay here with you." Hearing this, he starts laughing and says, "Do you always just go for it?" Mirai remembers her ex saying the same thing to her before. Just then, Yoonho gets up and comes close to her. Slowly moving his hand near her hair, he says, "Dry your hair." Then Yoon says, "Yeren is not my girlfriend." After this, he hands her a towel and says, "I'm going to the library." The next day in the office, Mirai sees Yoonho everywhere. On her way home, she was looking at her ex's social media and thought of her past. Later, she returns to the game. Yoonho is studying, and Mirai just keeps looking at him. He notices this. Yoonho closes his books, picks up his bag, and starts to leave. Then, he comes to Mirai's desk and says, "I will buy you lunch today." Mirai happily leaves with him. They talk about many things while eating. Now there is friendship between them. They work on projects together. Then they practice together. Now Mirai has become addicted to the game. She was sleepy during work too. They all go to a party again. Mirai sees Yoonho standing alone outside. She goes to him. Yoonho asks, "Can I ask you something?" She says, "Yes." He says, "Can I be more than just your friend?" Next, it is shown that Mirai and Kyung-nam have gone to an office dinner for the first time. When Mirai is leaving, it starts raining. Kyung-nam also comes and stands near her. She asks, "How come you came to the team dinner this time?" He replies, "My stove was broken. Are you going home now?" Thinking about something, she says, "No." Kyung-nam says, "Then are you going to the office?" She thinks to herself, "Does he think I can't go anywhere except home and office?" She says, "I'm going on a date." Kyung-nam says, "Oh, I see." Then he takes an umbrella from his bag and starts to leave from there. He turns and says, "Your date must be coming to pick you up, right?" Then he leaves from there. She puts her bag on her head and starts running. She comes home and her mobile buzzes. In her group, there are wedding cards and engagement photos of her ex-boyfriend. After seeing them, Mirai becomes sad. Just then, her ex calls her. He says sorry she had to see the pictures and tells her to take care. She then goes and checks the ring, only to find out she only has 4 hours of subscription left. Next, she is shown on a bus. All the students are going on a school trip. Yoonho sees that everyone is enjoying and singing, except Mirai. Mirai was thinking about her past, how she broke up with Sejun. She was crying in real life too. He comes and sits on the seat next to her. He asks, "Is everything okay?" She shakes her head, after which, Yoonho rests her head on his shoulder. She then remembers her dating life with Sejun, how they had first started dating and their days back then. She falls asleep. The bus stops outside a building. When Mirai wakes up, she sees that only the two of them are left in the whole bus. They both start walking. Just then, Mirai points towards the sky and says, "Look." a shooting star. Then they both start heading towards the forest. After walking some distance, there is a beautiful view in front. She asks Yoon, "Do you like me now that we know each other?" He smiles, seeing her. Then she asks, "If you get married to some other girl, will you forget about me?" He replies, "Will you forget me?" She asks again, "Which memories of me will you keep? The starting ones or the ending ones of me?" He replies, "I will remember it all." They both smile, looking at each other. She says, "That's a really good answer." She then sees Sejin and wishes him love. Yoonho says, "You are talking as if we are running out of time." Then they are about to kiss.